boys and girls. I hope you're doing well. Happy Thursday. Coffee. I like this coffee cup because it has a verse on it. It says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. From Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. And we've talked about that verse before in class, right? We don't want to be worrying or anxious before we pray about anything. All right, so, yep, my cute little coffee mug. And this is the good stuff right inside. So today we are going to be comparing fractions with the same denominator. And I'm excited about this lesson because I remember learning this and I loved fractions that had the same denominator. It made it nice and easy instead of when they're different. So this should be a good lesson and I hope everyone follows along and watches the video. So here we go, let's get started. I hope you're all having a lovely week. So let's see, 4-9-20. Perfect. All right, Jeremy and Christina are each making a quilt block. Both blocks are the same size and both are made of 4 equal squares. 2/4 of Jeremy's squares are green. Remember, 2/4, 2 is half of 4, so this fraction is also a half. So 2/4 of Jeremy's squares are green. 1/4 of Christina's squares are green. Whose quilt block has more green squares? Now, when the denominators are the same, all you need to do, boys and girls, is look at the numerator. And whichever numerator is greater, that's your answer for who has more. So 2/4 of Jeremy's squares. That means that Jeremy's squares are greater. And if you think about it, yesterday we worked on our fraction blocks. Here's one, or fraction strips, I'm sorry. And if we broke all of these into 4 pieces, well, Jeremy, 2 out of the 4 are shaded, and Christina only 1 out of the 4. So clearly, there's more for him. So if you're in doubt, you can go back to yesterday's lesson and use those fraction strips to help you. But remember, when the denominators are the same, not to worry because you just need to focus on the numerator and which one is greater. Okay. Now it says, compare fractions of a whole. Shade 2/4 of Jeremy's quilt block. So we kind of did that over here, but good. Now shade 1/4 of Christina's quilt block. Now we're going to compare. The greater fraction will have the larger amount of the whole shaded, and we can clearly see that Jeremy's 2/4 is greater than Christina's 1/4. All right, and up here, it says circle the 2 fractions you need to compare, which we did. And how are the 2 fractions alike? Well, they both have the same denominator. All right, here we go. Compare fractions of a group. Jen and Maggie each have 6 buttons. All right, so each of them have 6 buttons, which are right here. Shade 3 of Jen's buttons to show the number of buttons that are red. So 3 of Jen's. Okay, done. Now shade 5 of Maggie's buttons to show the number that are red. 1. Oh, I think Maggie has more. Write a fraction to show the number of red buttons in each group and then compare. So for Jen, again, they each have 6, so our denominator is 6, right? All together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Numerator is how many are shaded, which is 3. All right. Maggie's buttons, again, there's 6 total, and there's 5 shaded. Clearly, Maggie has more. Now, I want to draw attention to the fraction 3/6 really quick. This is apart from the lesson, but just so you know, 3, everyone, is half of 6, correct? And if we divided the top and the bottom by the same number, you would get a half. Just, you can physically see that too. This is half. Half are shaded. So always be thinking in your head, even if it doesn't ask, try to think of those equivalent fractions, okay? 3/6, oh yeah, that's the same as a half. It'll help you in the future. Okay, there are the same number of buttons in each group, so you can count the number of red buttons to compare the fractions, which we did. So 3 is less than 5, because again, we're just comparing these numerators here. That top number is what we're looking at since the denominators are the same. So 3/6 is less than 5/6. And that means that Maggie has a greater number of red buttons. All right, page 1. Here we go. Okay. Use fraction strips, these things right here, and a number line. As at the craft store, one piece of ribbon is 2/8 yard long. Another piece of ribbon is 7/8 of a yard long. If Sean wants to buy the longer piece of ribbon, which piece should he buy? Now, again, I think that this lesson today is easier than yesterday's lesson. I'm not sure, maybe you can comment below if you agree, but we're comparing 2/8 and 7/8. And we have like denominators, that means the same denominator. So, and I'm just writing this to help you. So just compare the numerator, right? That's why I love these. So let's just talk about it for a second. 2 is less than 7. So this one is our less fraction, lesser than 7/8. It says shade the fraction strips to show the locations of 2/8 and 7/8. So here's 2/8, right? 2 out of 8. And remember, going back to the very beginning of chapter 8, each one is called a unit fraction. Remember, boys and girls? That's one piece of a whole. So each one is 1/8, and there's 8 total. So when you only have 2 shaded in, you've got 2/8. Down here, we need to shade in 7/8, which is honestly all the way over here and down. Bam. Now we can also show it on our number line like we did, I think it was 8.3 or 8.4. So 0/8, 1/8, 2/8. Oh, mechanical pencils, gotta love them. Woo, not that much. Okay, nope, the struggle. Okay, 2/8. And then 7/8 is going to be all the way over here. Almost a whole, right? A whole is when your numerator and denominator are the same. So 7/8 is almost all the way shaded. All right, we drew and labeled our points. Now let's compare. 2/8 is to the left of 7/8. It is closer to 0/8 or 0, right? 0/8 is honestly just 0. you don't really hear 0/8 much, and that was in the Khan Academy video. No one really says that. It's the same thing as just a 0. However, in fraction sense, it's 0 out of 8 pieces. So 7/8 is to the right of 2/8. It is closer to 8/8 or 1 whole. Now let's break this down. We've got 2/8 is less than 7/8. Make sure we know these signs. And 7/8 is greater than 2/8. Right now, this is our math book at its finest. It's taking each step, breaking it down, and we're in this together. I know that sometimes seeing all these blank boxes can get overwhelming and confusing. However, it's really just simply rewriting those fractions to compare. Now, up here, we didn't answer. On a number line, a fraction farther to the right is greater, right? Farther to this side is greater, closer to that whole. On a number line, a fraction farther to the left, over here, is, we're going to say that less than, greater than, less than, a fraction to its right. Which makes sense because on number lines, we start from 0 all the way up. So, Sean should buy the piece of ribbon that is 7/8 of a yard long. Using reasoning, Anna and Omar are decorating same size bookmarks. Anna covers 3/3 of her bookmark with glitter. Now, let's circle our fractions. Let's get in the habit with that. 3/3, if the numerator and the denominator are the same, 3 out of 3 pieces, it's the same as 1, right? 1 whole. Now, Omar covers 1/3 of his bookmark with glitter. Whose bookmark is covered with more glitter. We're comparing these two fractions. When the denominators are the same, the whole is divided into the same size pieces. You can look at the numerators to compare the number of pieces. Right, numerators are those top numbers. And which one's bigger, 3 or 1? 3. And we can even use the wording that a whole, right? This 3/3 is 1 whole. This is only 1/3 of a whole. So this is definitely bigger. Both fractions involved third size pieces, right? So you have a total of 3 pieces, right? That denominator is the total number of pieces. They both have 3 pieces. It's just how many of them are shaded in or used. So 3 pieces are more than 1 piece. 3 is greater than 1. So 3/3 is greater than 1/3. Again, just like this problem, it's just breaking it down into each step. When we compared those numerators, we compared to the top numbers, 3 pieces, and that's more than 1 piece on the other fraction. And so Anna bookmark is covered with more glitter. All right, here we go. Share and show. Draw points on the number line to show 1/6 and 5/6, and then compare. So we have 1/6 here and 5/6 here. Remember, if it's closer to the left side, it's less. And so 1/6 is less than 5/6. Okay? Remember, when the symbol is open, we talked in class how it's like an alligator. It's hungry. It wants to go towards the greater fraction. It wants more. Now, for numbers 2 through 9, you're just writing less than, greater than, or equal to, and all of the denominators are the same. So you're just looking at the numerators, and you're writing your symbol based upon that. So 4/8, again, that's the same as 1/2, everyone, just so you keep that in mind. 4/8 is greater than 3/8. Our denominators are the same, but the 4 is bigger than the 3. I should be using greater than rather than the word bigger, but. Now this one, again, same denominators, so we look at the numerator. 1/4 is less than 4/4, which is also 1 whole. 1/2 is equal to 1/2, same thing. 3/6 is going to be greater than 2/6 because the 3 is greater than the 2, same denominator, so we can just check the numerator. Remember, 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. All right, comparing again. 2/4 is less than 3/4. Again, think about those fraction strips, boys and girls. This is from yesterday's lesson. If we have if we have 4 pieces for 2 fraction strips and one is shaded in 2 blocks and the other 3 blocks, there's another visual example of why 3/4 is greater than 2/4. All right, this one is equal to 4/6 is greater than 2/6, right? Numerator's bigger here. 0/8 is definitely less than 2/8. All right, write a fraction less than, greater than, or equal to the given fraction. So you get to come up with your own fraction. So 1/2, let's think, that's going to be less than 2/2, right? Which is the same as 1 whole. Same denominator, bigger numerator over here. Okay, now this one, we need a fraction that's less than 12/6. So you want for this lesson to keep that same denominator but a smaller numerator. So you could really do anything. You could do 11/6, 10/6, 9/6. You get to choose. I'm gonna do 8/6. Again, this is where our work might be different, and that's okay. If you follow along closely with me and you do the same exact way as me, that's fine. If you want to choose your own numbers, go for it. 8/8 is equal to 8/8, which is the same as 1 whole. Oh my goodness. We want to keep practicing those equivalent fractions. And then 2/4, again, keep that denominator, but a number less than 2 would be 1. Oh wait, no. I need a greater than. Terrible eraser. Okay, so greater than 2 would be 3/4, or you could do 4/4. All right. It's going in and out, blurriness. Okay, Carlos finished 5/8 of his art project on Monday. I'm going to circle my fraction. Tyler finished 7/8 of his art project on Monday. So we're comparing these two fractions. Who finished more? Look at the numerators. Looks like Tyler did. And let's do our complete sentences. Tyler finished more of his art project, period. Number 15, Ms. Endo made 2 loaves of bread that are the same size, right? Same size because the denominators are the same, right? Her family ate 1/4 of the banana bread and 3/4 of the cinnamon bread. That sounds good. Which loaf of bread has less left over? The one with less left over must have had more eaten. So again, look at those numerators. Looks like 3/4 of the cinnamon bread. Her family ate 1/4 of the banana bread and 3/4 of the cinnamon bread. So they ate more of that. So we're gonna say cinnamon bread has less left over. All right. Last page for today. Todd and Lisa are comparing fractions. Which statements are correct? Mark all that apply. So there could be more than one, and let me tell you, there's 3 here. So let's see which ones are right. Is 1/4 less than 4/4? Yes, so bubble that one in. Is 5/6 less than 4/6? No, that one doesn't work. Is 2/3 greater than 1/3? Well, our denominators are the same, so let's look at the numerators, and 2 is greater than 1, so yes, this works. And the last one is 5/8 greater than 4/8? And I would say so, yes, because the denominators are the same, but the numerator over here is bigger. And remember, 4/8 is also equivalent to 1/2. What's the error? So something is wrong with the work and we need to be the detectives and figure it out. Gary and Vanessa are comparing fractions. Vanessa models, so let's look at Vanessa. She models 2/4 and Gary models 3/4, right? Here's an example of a whole. 3 out of 4 pieces, right? 4 pieces would complete the whole. So 3/4 is this fraction, and this is 2/4. This is the whole. This is what Vanessa's fraction is, though. Now, Vanessa writes that 3/4 is less than 2/4. Look at Gary's model and Vanessa's model and describe her error. So, describe the possible error. Basically, boys and girls, Vanessa and Gary, they're not comparing the same size wholes. The 4th size pieces are not the same size, so you can't compare them. Look at this. 2/4 here is very different as what 2/4 would look here, correct? So they're not comparing the same size. The 4 pieces are not the same size. That's how we can describe this. The 4 pieces are not the same size. So it is not, and I'm going to say accurate, which is a synonym for correct. So again, 1/4, look at 1/4 here and how big that is. And look at 1/4 over here. How could you possibly compare those, right? It just doesn't make sense. You need the same size pieces, and that's why fractions are all about equal pieces and parts. That's why it's similar to division with equal groups, right? It all relates. Last question for today. Explain how to correct Vanessa's error and then show the correct model. So what you could say is you could redraw Vanessa's model by using the same size whole as Gary and then show the fractions. So for Vanessa, here's that whole that she had. And instead of having huge 1/2 pieces, you could make the same size pieces as Gary instead to show 2/4 here, right? You could show it completely similar. I know mine's not perfect. Instead to show 2/4. Okay, so all you really need to write, explain how to correct, redraw the fraction strip. Come on. And make sure Vanessa's pieces are the same size as Gary's. I'm sorry because I'm a lefty and it's hard to be writing and I know my hand covers it, so I apologize. So here is lesson, that was 9.2. We are moving quite along. I'm very proud of you. I have almost all of the chapter 8 tests, so make sure you're sending those in for credit. And if you need any support, let me know on any of these questions. Try the homework, take a little break, come back to it. I love when you reach out, and if you have a specific question on a specific number, don't hesitate. That's what I'm here for. So I miss all of you, and we'll have 9.3 tomorrow. See you soon.